Coffee, Big Cup, and hello. Welcome back to another very special episode of the Gilmore Way Podcast. I'm Kate.
And I'm Laura. And this week we're back with a returning special guest, Jenny of the FanFest Society. Together with her husband, Marcus, Jenny has been running the most incredible Gilmore Girls fan events for the last 9 years and bringing together cast and crew and fans from all over the world to celebrate our favorite show. From Kent and Washington Depot in Connecticut to Algonquin in Maine to Unionville in Ontario, Canada, we have been all over the place just enjoying Gilmore Girls year after year after year and these special events. This year is going to be no different. In 2024, this event will be returning to Connecticut in Guilford, October 18th to 20th. So we wanted to bring on Jenny to discuss this event that is coming. We will be there. Obviously, she will be there. This event already has hundreds of attendees who have bought tickets. And so we just wanted to do a special episode this week highlighting some of the past years, what to expect this year, and why you should 1,000% be attending this weekend.
Yeah, what a fun intro. Yes. And this year I like being a returning podcast guest because I've met you in person now.
Yes, you have.
You might be our only returning podcast guest.
No way.
I think so.
Yeah,
Wow.
Most of the time it's just the two of us. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm one of probably few that have actually met you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me blab about FanFest and this community. It's nice to see you again. I'm glad that you asked me to return, and I'm glad that I will see you in Guilford, Connecticut this October.
Yeah, we like hearing you blab. It stops us from blabbing again.
Yeah, but other than that, the first thing that we want to do is just flash back to last fall, because this was the first time that Kate and I had actually attended one of these events in person. And I don't think there are words that can do it justice as to how amazing of a time we had, how special it was for us, and just how we immediately left Algonquin thinking 364 days until the next one. Please just let it be right now. But what were your favorite moments from last fall in Algonquin that you can think back to?
I think it was special for a lot of reasons. I think every time we go somewhere the second time, there's just energy that feels really familiar, like a reunion. We had gone to Algonquin in 2022, and it was the first time we were there, and it was new, and people were excited. But when we came back for 2023, it felt almost like we were all coming home. It felt very familiar, very fun, and had this like, hey, we were back. I'm going to go revisit some of my favorite places. I think for me, Maine is really special because it's actually where I was living whenever I started the festival. We had just moved to a town about an hour north of Portland. And I drove past the like coastal Maine probably 20 times in that like 6-week period from whenever I dreamt up the festival. And we had that first festival in Washington Depot in 2016. And every time I passed the coast of Maine, I would remember Lorelai saying she was, should check out the coast of Maine to Luke. And I always was like, I should check out the coast of Maine. And so for me, it was really fun because it was kind of like this realization full circle moment of like, we should all check out the coast of Maine. It kind of felt fun. I think another thing that made last year particularly special, not just being in Maine, honestly, I really loved meeting all the new moderators. I loved meeting you guys for the first time. We had 3 different sets of moderators of panels that I never got to meet in person. That we had such good feedback. We had such a fun time meeting new people, seeing their take on how to make FanFest really special and inclusive of everyone. You guys had such a fun game that you put together. People loved it, which is why we were so excited to have you back. I love the things that makes FanFest special and that make FanFest different than like other cons or other events. Specifically, like say Kathleen in the choir. Kathleen came, she played her guitar the year before, and then she took it on herself to say, hey, what if we amplified that? She's really humble and great. She was like, no one wants to just see me on stage. And I was like, yes, they do. She said, what if we had a choir? And I was like, a choir? How are you going to get a choir together in like a day? And she said, we'll just put out an ask, see who wants to participate, find me a practice, 1 hour to practice, and we're going to put on a show. And like those kind of things to see how the fans, the attendees, the cast, the guests we have, how they kind of bring this event to life. Meaning like I invited Kathleen, but she had this whole other narrative of like, let's have a choir. And I thought, sure, let's do it. So those things are really special. That happens quite a bit. I love seeing new cast members that haven't seen FanFest before. Every time we bring in someone new, I'm kind of like, oh, that's really fun. They get to see what this is all about. But then I also like to bring back people who haven't been there in a while. Vanessa Morano hadn't been since our first year of the festival. And so seeing her and hearing her talk about how the festival's kind of morphed over the last 9 years was really fun to be like, man, do you remember whenever we did this 9 years ago and we're all a decade younger and we were in Washington Depot trying to see, like, is this fandom going to take off? Those kind of things are really special to me. I like seeing how the community gets stronger year after year. Friendships that, you find at FanFest and you connect with all year long, whether it's through social media or on the phone or text or whatever that medium is. Seeing people connect every year is fun. And I just think it gets better every year. And so I don't know. I think it was a really special year. It was really fun. The weather was great last year. You never know in New England in the fall what it's going to be like, but it always feels like going home. It feels very special to me. In lots of ways, I would say every year is my favorite. And so I can't tell you it was my favorite year, but every year is kind of my favorite. And last year is no exception.
It's like being asked to pick a favorite child, right?
Yes, right. They're all your favorite at some point. And they all have things that make them very unique. Last year was no different. Everything ran really smoothly. It usually does. We have these great volunteers. We have great attendees. We have people that are always offering to help. I think every time I ran into you guys in the street, you were like, do you need anything? How are you doing? And we're having a great time. And like the feedback you get every year just makes it wonderful. The memories I have are typically of seeing people enjoying themselves and coming back to me and telling me that. So I get the feedback of all the good things.
Yeah.
You guys, do you have a favorite memory? Can I ask?
Yeah. Laura, you go first.
Okay. Favorite memory. That's tough.
Or do you want me to go first while you think about it?
Yeah. Again, this is like, how can I pick? But you go. Yeah. So you go first.
I have two definite standouts. One being the cast panel. I think it was the Saturday night. So it's sort of like, the big night. And just hearing everybody talk, everybody was so funny and personable. And it was so like behind the curtain in a way that you would never get, like you said, at any other convention or in any other interview. It was so like intimate in that space. And part of that was Kathleen and her choir. And, that was on my list of things to be like, that was phenomenal. I have videos of it. Yeah. And, yes, Kathleen, we do want to see just you singing because you're amazing. But having the sort of the background vocals of everybody else really did add a little bit of oomph, I guess. And it was a nice option for people to participate in something, especially if they weren't doing a panel or a game or whatever. They got to put themselves forward and go up on stage and be part of something special. So that was really nice to see. If she does that again, I thought about it last year and I didn't. And if she does it, not always that well, but sometimes. But
you should.
It brings me to my next favorite one, which was karaoke the first night. Was
really fun.
It was so much fun. I was the second to last. I sang There She Goes. And then Eris comes on stage and New York starts playing. And I was like, oh my God, okay, can I do this with you? And then other people joined us on stage too. And so I sang New York with Eris Alvarado and several other attendees, I
think that's the fun part about FanFest. You never know really what's going to happen. And you have these opportunities that you probably wouldn't have anywhere else, that you're like, I'm in Maine at a 100-year-old theater singing with a cast member from my favorite show. How did I get here?
Exactly.
I think FanFest is full of those moments for all of us. Me too. I mean, me included. Like, I'm in the East Coast with a bunch of people that are really happy, and I don't know how, like, you look at it like a snow globe and you're like, this is pretty neat. From that up view. So I'm glad you guys had fun. You would look like you're having fun every time I saw you.
Yeah. Again, there are no words that I think would do it justice as to like just how joyous of a weekend that was for us. So I'm not even going to try. I will piggyback now. My favorite moments. One is kind of going along with what Kate said. There was a moment that we were sitting in the theater and it was super late. And I think probably a lot of people had already gone to bed. So there were maybe a dozen or two people still left in there. And all of a sudden, just as she and I are sitting there, Eris just comes up behind us and like is just like, hey, what's up? Thanks for being here and still hanging out. And I was just like, oh, hi. And he's just like, yeah, no, it's so really cool to see you here. And I'm just like, is this reality right now? Like, what is actually happening that Caesar from like one of our favorite shows of all time is just now behind us, like thanking us for just chilling.
Yeah.
Pinch me?
I think
Am I
they all have
dreaming?
that sentiment. They're really glad you guys are there. And from the cast members that come all the time, and even the new ones that come and the ones that haven't come back, but we'd love to have them back. Their sentiment is always like, this is really cool for us too, to see the staying power of a project they worked on, to see people that really stay up late and travel the world to be together. And so I think they would also say the same things.
Yeah. And I will just say another I think highlight for me was at the end of the weekend, which was going to be really bittersweet because we all thought that this potentially was going to be the last time. And then we're all sitting in the Levitt and you throw on that video saying that, you know, actually we're coming back in 2024 for Guilford. And I think there was just this audible like gasp and realization that it wasn't going to be the end and that everyone was there was going to have just, again, another opportunity to see all of their friends next year. You know, we weren't shutting the door on this just yet. That felt like such a special moment with just how happy it made everybody to know that same time next year, we'll all be back doing this again. I know I just felt elated in that moment, just knowing that we were going to have another shot at this. So that was also really, I think, a special moment for me, at least. And I think for a lot of people.
Funny. I think a lot of events operate a little bit differently in that they like just plan to be there forever. And I'll be honest, when I first started the festival, I thought it was a one-time like gathering in Washington Depot. I'd never had a long-term plan to keep doing this. I never thought it would grow this way. I never thought it would be exactly what it is. But I say it all the time. We'll keep doing this event as long as people come. And, you know, whenever you go through things like the pandemic and different ups and downs, you think, you know, are people going to keep showing up? And so you wonder. And so I felt the same way you did whenever we announced it, of like, I can't believe we get to do this again. Like, I can't believe this is going to happen again, because I never know for sure. Sorry, I think my video paused for a second. I never know for sure that we'll be able to do it. And so every time I get to announce we're doing this again, I feel the same way you guys do, of like, oh, this is going to happen. And, you know, it's very exciting for us because we've moved around so much. I sometimes don't know where we're going to happen, like where it's going to happen again. And I actually didn't, whenever I said that we were going back to Connecticut, it wasn't Guilford. It was somewhere else that ended up not panning out. And then I went and took a tour of the coast of Connecticut in October. And I mean, I can tell you in a minute more about it, but to kind of circle back on that emotion of like excitement, we were excited too. And we thought we were, you know, coming home to Connecticut felt really fun. And so I felt the same way as you did. That was a lovely way to end the festival, of saying, hey, we're working on something, and I'm really glad that we get to do this again.
Yeah. Just spinning off of what Laura said, reminded me actually of the first night when we first got in for the opening ceremonies, if you will, and the video you had put together set to Happy Place, and just the montage of all of the photos from previous years. And, you know, nothing had even happened yet. We'd only just got there. We rolled in at 6:27 and things were starting at like 6:35.
You were just in time.
We were just right there. And then to watch that and like, just to know what was about to come, like I had chills already and nothing had even happened yet. So
that's awesome.
It's the power of it, you know, it washes over you immediately when you step into the space with all of these people. And it's just a very special feeling.
You know, what's actually honestly really neat to me too, is hearing it from a first time attendee's perspective every year. I'm like, oh, they're still delighted. Like, it's not just, because I always think of it as the festival grew and grew and grew and it's a reunion. And I know every year, you know, half of the audience, or probably less than half, probably more like a third of the audience is new, or has never been before. It hadn't been, but came back. I'm always totally delighted to hear someone who's come new that says, this still feels really brand new to me. And I think that's because, you know, the festival moves around, because every year the schedule is slightly different because we bring in new cast members, because we make it new. But it makes me, you have no idea how happy it makes me to hear that you're like, this is so cool and I'm so glad I'm here and it's new. So that's neat to hear. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. So as you were obviously up and down the Connecticut coast picking, what city you wanted this to be in, you landed on Guilford for a reason. Can you tell us why? And are there any hidden gems there that you've already located that you think any attendee just please visit this spot or check this out? What made you decide on this location?
Yeah, so we were actually going back to kind of the area where we began, is what we had thought was going to work out. And then some things fell apart and we were like, you know what, where should we hold this event? And it's funny because I kind of skipped ahead and was like, maybe we should just do a cruise next year. And then I was like, oh, a cruise in the fall. I don't know. Everyone loves going to Connecticut. Let's find a way. And so I flew up at the end of October and I landed in New York City. I drove from New York City the whole way down the coast to like Rhode Island. I was like, I'm going to check out Southern Connecticut because it's got to be pretty, right? It's Connecticut. It's the fall. Let's just figure this out. I remember Rory was on a train near Mystic. I don't know if you remember that tidbit. And so I went the whole way through to the coast, turned around. I stopped in Mystic and I was like, man, this is a really cool town. And then I started driving through and in my head, I was like, Mystic would be really great for the festival. And I still think it's a really cool town. I actually would say if you have time to explore surrounding towns, that's one that I'm like, oh, that'll really captivate you too. There's some great restaurants. It's a cool little vibe. It has its own, feel. So I stopped in several towns. Essex, I stopped probably, I have to ask Marcus, probably 12 different towns. But the second I pulled, not into Guilford, like off the highway, it's when you get off the highway, you have to drive into town before you get to the green. But as the second I pulled around off the highway, down the road, down like a pretty normal looking road, almost how Unionville is. You don't pull off the highway to Unionville. You kind of have to drive through it, through like a residential area. The second I pulled into the green, I got chills. I thought, this place is cool. There's this beautiful white church there. There's this incredible green with a path around it. The whole town is surrounded by the green. It just felt like this has to be the place. I had driven the whole coast, and the second I saw this, I knew that we had to hold this event there at some point. Now, granted, my imagination and my excitement is one thing, but I have to get the town to agree. I have to find a place to rent, to either a field to put a tent, a building that'll hold us, a space that'll work. And when I went into town hall, they were like, oh, I don't have anywhere big enough in town. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have? You have to. Can we put a tent in the town square? They said, no, you can't put a tent there unless you're a registered nonprofit in town. I went through all these hoops and I was like, kind of getting like, oh, I got to find another place. So I kept driving down the coast. When I went back, I finally realized that the fairgrounds are about 0.3. I don't know if I'm measuring correctly, but it's like a 5-minute walk out of town is the fairgrounds, the Guilford Fairground. Oops, I think I'm freezing. Did I freeze?
No.
Okay. So I hit my internet's not great right where I'm at right now. If I go anywhere else, my kids are too loud. So I thought I'll just go in this quiet corner here that's a little bit dark and the internet's not great. I called the fairground. The fairground ended up saying, hey, we have the Guilford Fair in September. It's like they're the biggest event of the year for them. They said, but in October, we could maybe work this out. And so the moral of the story is I just had to dig around a bit. I knew that this was going to be a great spot. I loved the idea of a new adventure for the Fan Fest. I like when Fan Fest moves. I think it's what makes the kind of everything kind of change. It gives us a chance to discover new places, to take everyone somewhere new, to try something a little bit different, to reimagine what Fan Fest is. It kind of gets rid of the idea of like any staleness. Just like, hey, I've been to all these places with Fan Fest. Now I'm going to try the coast of Connecticut. I think being in a new town, it lets people try new things, try new foods, meet new people, see new things. I love the idea of an adventure. The fact that Guilford is so close to so many places nearby is really fun. You can still check out Litchfield County up where Kent was in Washington Depot. If you want to take that side trip, you can check out Yale. I think New Haven's like 15 minutes down the road. Several people will probably go do a tour of Yale. There's Providence, Rhode Island's nearby. Hartford Airport's not too far. New York City's not too far. It kind of gives you this like central, beautiful place. And so I get excited for people to explore because I love to explore. In the town, it's very obvious the second you pull into town, you're going to see this stunning green space. You're going to see little shops that are super lovely and restaurants and coffee shops and places. It's exactly what you would want kind of like a Stars Hollow feel to be. There's some great restaurants. I think the fun part here is like, even when you leave the peripheral, like right around downtown, if you go behind the shops, there's like another area of town. It kind of billows out to just a really great space. It's walkable. It's cute. If I'm thinking of little gems that you'd have to see, mine are always a little bit different. I have a gluten allergy, and so I'm always looking for like a treat that I can eat. There's this beautiful, I don't know if it's French or whatever, some type of bakery called Hen and Heifer that's like 1 block behind downtown that has like, even if you don't want to buy something, just walk in. It's just beautiful. It's like this tiny little, it's probably smaller than like a dining room table. It's just a little, it looks very European. It's like this little bar. It has these beautiful desserts in it. And I had a treat that I really loved. And then another behind the white, I think it's First Church or the Community Church. I should know this. The First Congregational Church. Behind that, there's a little place called Bellevue that had really tasty food that I could eat. And then there's a salad food truck in town called the Greenery that people love. There's the Marketplace. It reminds you of like a diner. They have a counter service. There's Cilantro's, which is a great coffee roasting shop owned by a family. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but every time I go, it feels very authentic. It has the feel of, there's a chocolate shop, there's a bookstore, there's everything you'd want to be in a town when you're coming for like a Gilmore Girls type of event. I don't think that you can go wrong. I think what I love about FanFest is that it's unique for everyone. Everyone has their own experience. You have this schedule, you have these friends you want to see, you're in a new place. But at the end of the day, like no 2 people are going to have the same experience. You're not walking into a sterile building, standing in line and then leaving. You get a schedule and you can decide what is it that you want. So I think that's many of the gems that I would say. The surrounding areas, in the area, off the beaten path, whatever you think. I think you can have your own adventure. But I am curious, what are you guys most looking forward to?
Probably the new people. Every year the lineup changes a little bit, and so there will be a couple familiar faces. People we've met before, and even Stan Zimmerman's coming back. We love him. We saw him in New York City as well. We had him on our podcast.
Book signing?
We went to the book signing.
Oh,
yeah.
How was that? Was it fun?
It was awesome. And then there were some other familiar FanFest faces down there too. And we all went out for drinks and it was so much fun.
Fun. Yeah. We all travel in pods. You show up for everyone and you're like, oh yeah, I know that person from FanFest.
Yeah. And they're still doing it. Some of them just got together with Shelley Cole. Just crazy.
It's a fun environment. I'm actually, and I should say that too, that's not like a gem in town. That's actually something I'm just really excited about. I've not met Greg Henry in person ever. I've not met Katie Walder in person. I've not met Rona Benson in person. I've talked to Katie. Katie did the virtual event in 2020. She had a young daughter at the time and it was too hard for her to travel and it was a pandemic. And so her daughter's older now and she was like, yeah, I can totally get away. And so I'm looking forward to seeing her and Rona. I'm looking forward to meeting Greg Henry. I've heard really great things about all 3 of them being super fun. Really, really excited to have them. And then also, we've had friends for years. I think Stan, Eris, and Valerie have been to every single event we've ever had. And so that's really fun to have them there. It'll be good to see Nick Holmes again. I haven't seen him in a year. He missed last year. Didn't see Devin Michaels last year. Kathleen, it'll be great to have her back, whatever version she wants to do of her own song and dance and choir. I haven't really connected with her about that, but I have a feeling she's going to say, if you'll give me a stage, I'd love a choir. So that'll be great. Emily is always fun and easy and laid back. We get to have her back. I always think of the festival as in like Guilford, because to me, the cast and the attendees are my friends. And I'm like, of course I'm going to see them. What about this town? And how are we going to make this event fit into this town? But at the end of the day, it's all about the people. It doesn't matter where we go. If we're in Guilford, if we were in Philadelphia, wherever, I think FanFest would have its own magic.
I'd rather not be in Philadelphia.
It popped up to my head first. I was like, where else would I say that's random that we would never go for FanFest?
I had to make the season 7 joke. It was right there for me. But no. I'm really excited to meet Greg Henry. I'm a big Marvel fan and he was in the Guardians movies. And
I'm not a big TV watcher, movie watcher. I love books. And so I always forget that a lot of these people are in other things that people have enjoyed them other places. And you're right. He is a big Marvel. Like I forget these things completely. They don't even like register in my head. That, you know, sometimes FanFest, who was it we had? One year we had someone come. Oh, the first year we were in a Gunquit, people were super excited about Kathleen because of, is it Roadhouse? That she was, it was like something else that they came and like, I don't know about Gilmore Girls, but I'm a big Kathleen fan. I was like, oh, that's terrific. Like, I forget that, you know, they're not just Gilmore Girls characters.
Yeah. And Katie Walder was on How I Met Your Mother, which is another of my favorites.
I did love that show. I think I watched it when my babies were really young and I was like stuck at home all the time. My husband and I giggled so we just laughed and laughed. I love that show. No, that's fun.
Yeah. And we missed Nick last year. We've heard nothing but great things about him in person. And so we're just really excited to meet him.
Really fun. He makes sure everyone is included. I mean, they all do, but he's like a ringmaster. Like he'll, you know, whenever you said you were in the theater and Eris came up and said, I'm really glad you're here. That's the feeling that I always get with Nick is like, he's really glad we're all there and that he's the host in the house that like makes sure every guest feels included and every guest feels, he's really good about that. That's probably one of my favorite qualities about him is making sure everyone feels included.
Yeah. And of course we're chomping at the bit to meet Emily Kuroda in person as well.
Yes. She's a hoot. She's funny. She's so funny and she's so fun. And her favorite things about FanFest are the attendees. She doesn't love, I'm not speaking outside of like the realm. She doesn't love panels. She's like, oh, I don't want to do a panel, but can I help with registration and sign people in? I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like she like loves to like sit down and like turn and surprise someone that she's Emily. Like, I think she loves the element of just like joy and surprise of the FanFest. She wants to do the interactive thing. She's like, can I call bingo? Can I whatever? She just wants to be involved. And I really appreciate that about her.
Yeah. One thing I've also noticed too is that there are a lot of new people that are going to be attending for the first time, just like we were last year.
Yeah.
And that just makes my heart so happy, as I'm sure it does for you as well. Just that, again, this event is still just bringing in so many new faces.
Yeah.
You know, the Gilmore Girls universe and the fandom is still alive and well. But there can also be, I know, some trepidation with traveling alone, you know, if you don't have a friend or a partner to come with. And I've seen a lot of posts as well with people saying if they're unsure if they should or, you know, could attend because they're nervous about that or have anxiety surrounding that. What would you say to someone who's coming to Guilford for the first time solo, who maybe has some trepidation about attending this event by themselves?
You know, it's funny. I think that coming alone, whether you want to be a wallflower or you want to be in the mix completely, you can either blend in or you can fit right in. Either way, I think that coming alone, you're never really alone. We try really hard to make sure that whenever we, you know, first get there, we always have either a solo traveler event where they meet up. This year we're going to do on Friday morning, right after registration, like a solo traveler and a first timer meetup where Marcus and I are going to go probably have some cast members there so that people can see like friendly faces of other people that are there alone. So they're not feeling like they're the only ones. They were like, oh, there's actually a bunch of us. And so I thought, oh, we'll meet right outside of the tent. We'll, you know, say hi, give a quick intro, let people know that like, you're not really here alone. I would say that when you are traveling for this, we're all like-minded. We're all here for the same thing. People are really friendly in lines. People are not, you know, not going to let you sit next to them. They're going to say, hey, we're going to go eat. Do you want to go eat? I think the way that if you wanted to blend in, you probably could. If you're just, you know, I want to get away and I just want to have a quiet weekend, I want to experience this, you probably could. But I think it's really hard to get away and not make new friends. I think that the community is so inclusive and there's so many opportunities to jump in that no one ever really feels alone. It's a lot of togetherness and a lot of like fun ways to kind of jump in. I think that fans started, gosh, I want to say it was Unionville is the first time I noticed it. I'm not sure, it could have happened beforehand and I just wasn't paying attention. But a few years ago when we were outside of Toronto in Unionville, the like idea of the token exchange really, really ramped up. I don't know if you guys participated in that last year and if your experience was the same of like, you bring a bag of tokens, it can be 5, 10, 15, 20, 200 little trinkets that it can be a piece of food, a candy that's from the town you're from. It could be something super unrelated. It could be a shell. It could be a bookmark. It could be, I mean, you probably know better than I do because I've never participated in the token exchange. But the idea of it is, and jump on in a second, that you bring these tokens. And when you are walking around town or standing in line, You can say, hey, are you doing the token exchange? You can trade with someone else. It opens the dialogue, creates a conversation that's not so much like, hi, my name's Jenny. It's more of like, hey, I have this token. And then you get into, hey, where are you from? What's your name? What's your token? What's the meaning behind it? And then you have all these trinkets. You remember people easier because you're like, oh yeah, that girl brought me a candy bar from Ohio or whatever, a seashell from Seattle or a bookmark from a girl in Kansas. Whatever these are, these memories allow you to kind of like seal in your head who these people are, what they're doing. I think this year at registration, we're going to have in Paris's Craft Corner, like bead bracelets. People can put their name on it. They can put where they're from. They can put a Gilmore Girls word. It'll kind of help them just kind of be hands-on and interactive. I'd like to say, I mean, I've never gone alone because I go with my husband and I both do the festival together. But we don't travel in a big group either. And he's off doing his thing and I'm doing my thing. I never feel alone at FanFest. I know you guys came separately, but together. Did you guys feel, even as a friend group, once you were there, you just jumped right in, right? Like, what's your experience? What do you think people could say coming alone?
Yeah, I think it is very warm and welcoming. We hadn't met anybody before, but we, for instance, and I hope she doesn't mind me like just name dropping her, but Jess, who has her own, small business, just creating these really
She's
lovely, Gilmore Girls related merchandise. We had been just in love with what she has created. We had been, just getting a lot of her like boxes and purchasing from her small business. And to be able to meet her in person for the first time was just so great. And it's really nice when you can have all of these like online friends, but then finally put a face to the name and spend that time in person and get to know her. And she was lovely. And then just get to continue to meet everybody else there and keep in touch with these people year round, even when the weekend is over. And that's why when we went to Stan's book signing a couple of weeks back, we were able to reconnect with some of the people that had been there last fall, and we remembered them. They were familiar with us to an extent, and it's just really nice to be able to have those connections just continue 365 even when we're not at a FanFest weekend. So the biggest takeaway for me is just that even if you are coming solo, this is one of the most loving and enveloping and warm communities that I have ever encountered. You will make friends if you want to. You're going to have a support network of people who are just there also in the same boat as you. Don't not come because you don't have anyone to come with.
Yes, I would say that too. If that's your hesitation, that's not a great hesitation. I mean, that's my thought is like, if you're worried about coming alone, don't let that be your worry. If you're worried about coming alone and having to like stay in a hotel alone because of finances, you can always connect with people on the FanFest planning group on Facebook. Sometimes people are looking because they're brave to share a room with someone, or they're looking for a carpool, or they're looking for a ride from the airport. Those are like, the financial aspect is a legit concern. I can understand that. But if you're just afraid to come alone, try to erase that because you won't feel alone at all. And if you're trying to release the burden of finances, then there's a resource for that too. The planning group could really be helpful to say, hey, I'm coming from, I don't know, Vermont, and I'm going to get off the bus stop here. Is there anyone else coming in that area? Do your research. I wouldn't jump in that car with someone you never spoke to. But at the same time, like, don't let that stop you. So yeah, I want to echo you and say, like, don't let the fear of thinking you're going to be alone for 3 days be the reason you don't come.
Yeah, you're never really alone because most of the time you're like waiting for autographs or you're part of a big group event or something. And like, speaking for myself, I'm an introvert. Laura and I make great travel buddies because she's my resident extrovert. And so even though we went together, there were still times when I was quote unquote alone because she would go off to grab us coffees or to go meet up with Jess. Speaking of Jess, she did a bunch of our prizes for our game panel. And like, she went above and beyond. Just the kindness exhibited by people we've never met or met once just astounded us last year. So there's that aspect of things. But so there would be times when I'd be standing alone in line, but I would be able to chat with the people around me, and everybody was friendly, and people would come up with tokens and you would exchange them. And so it just kind of flies by, and there's so many little interactions that all add up to just having such a wonderful time.
It's funny, the weekend always flies by for me too, but it also feels like we've been there for months. Like it feels like I'm like, because I sleep so little when I'm there. I'm up late at night. I'm up early in the morning. I feel like I'm going nonstop. And maybe that's because I am such an introvert, that I'm like, this is a lot. And it's also totally awesome. So I jump into it. But sometimes it feels like, oh, they can't leave on Sunday. We've been here for months. Like, where are they going? So that's a bummer, which that feeling of FanFest always being over. I always hope to know that we're able to do it again the next fall before we leave, because I can't imagine how I would feel if I knew that we couldn't. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that people shouldn't avoid coming because they're coming alone. I think that's probably the worst excuse I've ever heard.
Agreed.
Yeah. Other than that, for maybe just bouncing off of that, for those first time attendees who don't know what they're going to be getting this weekend, I mean, aside from the socialization and the friendships that you'll form and the people that are there that are just going to be welcoming to you, is there anything about the schedule that you can outline? Like, what should anyone coming for the first time expect in terms of meeting cast and crew, the panels, just to give them an idea of what the weekend is going to be like?
Yeah, the weekend is always similar in lots of ways and really different in others. There's always meet and greets for every cast and crew member that comes. Those lines, sometimes they might take you a little bit of time to get through, but the meet and greet itself is typically only an hour and a half long in the schedule. So you'll never stand there longer than an hour and a half for at the very most. Most of the time it's, 20, 30 minutes. You're kind of waiting in line to get up there, get a photo taken. Sometimes cast members will want to sign autographs. Most of the time they do. If someone asks, but usually it's just a photo. It's a quick photo, a hello. Those are nice. The meet and greets are one thing. There's panels in the evenings. We try to mix up some activities in the daytime. The days are long. I would say bring layers. Sometimes we usually start 9, 10 in the morning. We go, the last panel is usually over around 10 or 11. Then we try to do some late night activities, and those are kind of fun to stick around for. I would say we never know what the weather's going to be like. Bring, comfortable shoes, boots because it's the fall, a jacket for the evenings. If you don't think you want to stop for lunch, my favorite hack is like eating breakfast and then just carrying snacks around in the daytime and then having a dinner, because it's a lot. You don't want to miss anything unless you're like, you know what, I've met that cast member 5, 6 times. I'm going to actually go to lunch, or I'm going to, take a break because I need some quiet time. I'm going to scoot off and have a muffin somewhere in the corner. I would say if you're coming for the first time, the simple things like bring a phone charger, a portable phone charger. You're not going to be around your phone, a wall to sit and connect. I would say you can expect it to be better than even you expect. I would say it's more lively when it all comes together. When you look at the schedule is great. I love putting it together. I think people really get excited about it. But whenever it comes to life and the people pop in and you're moving around town and you're seeing people all kind of get together, I think that it has its own little, its own bubble, its own world. I would say if you're coming for the first time and you have the ability to add a day on before or after, because once you get to Gunquit, there's so much to see, and you'll be doing mostly the FanFest schedule for the most part. Most people would prefer to come a day or two early or stay a day late if they can. That's not obviously possible for everyone, but if you can build it into your trip, there's plenty to do in town.
Yeah, we did that last year where we stayed into the next morning and then we went for lunch at Crew and
it's just a nice way to kind of wrap it all up. We always stay till Monday too, and I think it's a nice way to wrap it up Sunday. Take a deep breath, think about what happened, ponder your favorite memories, kind of just have your own processing time, and then you can jump back into the real world on Monday.
Yeah, I found that we were spending so much time doing the FanFest stuff because we didn't want to miss a thing, that taking that extra afternoon and the following morning really gave us a chance to experience the town. We ended up going to Barnacle Billy's and then we went to see Tootsie. Yeah. And the next day, we could sleep in a little bit, check out of our hotel casually, enjoy one more loop of the town before having to take off. And then we did a few days in Connecticut as well. So
that's fun. Will you do that this year? What are your plans this year?
We haven't totally nailed that down, but I don't think we'll have quite as much vacation time this year, but we'd like to do a little bit extra if we can. If we're going to go that far, we have some favorite spots in Connecticut and we want to hit those again. Maybe see a few new ones.
Yeah, but I would echo that. And I think it's really great advice for anyone who's coming. If you have the capability to do so and the time off work or whatever personal schedule you have, build in an extra 24 to 48 hours to this trip
Yeah.
because
Yep.
you are going to need some, decompression time from the weekend, not in a bad way, but just to, again, like you said, reflect on how amazing all of that was. Just really reflect on all of the special moments and interactions that you had that weekend and just really take time to appreciate Connecticut for the state that it is, for the weekends that you had. And then maybe just visit, again, Washington Depot, the Mayflower, other spots that are just relevant to this show while you're there. If you're coming all of this way and you can do it, I think it's just it would be such a silver lining to anyone's trip. So
Yep.
if you can
I
build
think
in an
so,
extra day or two, just absolutely do it.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. Is there anything about the schedule you can tell us for this year? Is there anything new that you're excited about? Or
I can tell you that by July 1st, I'm trying to make it live. And so we try really hard to get it like really tied up by then, which I'm looking at my calendar now, and that's like a week from now. That's next Monday.
Next Monday. Yeah.
It should come out, and that just puts a little panic in my pocket. Something about the schedule. I think something about the schedule that's most interesting to me is none of us have seen it in this town before. I think the Guilford barn or the fairground, like the barn will be in, is really cool. It's a little bit set aside. It'll kind of feel like our own space. I think that it'll be a little bit more not more movement. Things are a little bit closer than I think they were even in Ogunquit. There's the town square, and then we're using the community house, which is like right north of the First Congregational Church, and then there's the fairgrounds. And so we kind of have maybe like 3/4 a mile that we're traversing. So it may feel a little bit more like we're in a town instead of like Ogunquit was more of a tourist town. It was it was the biggest town we've been in, maybe aside from Unionville, that felt very touristy and very much like FanFest you didn't notice FanFest was there. You just noticed a lot of people in FanFest t-shirts. Whereas when we used to be in Kent or Washington Depot, when we were in Lakeville for the secret event, it felt very much like FanFest had not taken over the town, but everywhere you looked, you felt like FanFest was happening. And I think that'll be the feel we have in Guilford too, which is more people than we had in Ogunquit, but more like it'll infiltrate the town a little bit more. So I think it'll feel more like our space. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that'll be neat.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I will say I'm so excited to get to these fairgrounds. Just looking at the pictures, seeing what a beautiful town this is. I cannot wait to get there. I think it's going to be really spectacular. Just one other follow-up question I have, again, for anyone who is maybe not even coming for the first time, but who hasn't nailed down the exact details of their trip yet. I know, even Kate and I are still just working out, how many days can we allot for this? What would you recommend in terms of, if you have not bought a ticket to this event yet, how much longer can you afford to wait? Because I know there's a potential risk to this selling out. Any recommendations for accommodations and finding a hotel or an Airbnb? Should people wait on this, or should you do it sooner rather than later? What would you recommend there?
I love planning. It's partly why we put on this event. I love to plan ahead. I typically book all my travel the second I feel like it's going to be in my head. I like making plans. And so partly I'm panicked that if you haven't got your ticket yet, what are you waiting for? You got to do this. You got to get your schedule lined up. You have to make sure you save for it. You have to make sure you can plan and figure out where you want to eat, what you want to do. Part of me says, go, 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 go. And the other part of me says, hey, you still do have time. We're still 4 months away from the event. Just because we plan it almost a year and ahead doesn't mean you're like in the lurch if you don't. I will say this year we're closer to selling out than we have been in the last several years. I am certain we'll sell out this year. We have less than 100 tickets left available, and we're still 4 months out. So for those people that are waiting for their fall schedule to line up, or to figure out what their kids' sports are doing, or that like to book travel after their summer vacations, you're not too late, but I wouldn't wait super long because we can only fill so many seats in this barn. I think we're probably looking like 650 is probably going to be where we're going to stop. And we're over 550 right now. And so I wouldn't wait too long. If you haven't booked a hotel yet, I know a lot of the smaller Airbnbs and lodging nearby and the smaller hotels and bed and breakfasts are probably filling. I will remind everyone, I would remind anyone to say New Haven's not that far. It's like 15 minutes and it's a bigger town. There's a ton of like, I say normal hotels, like hotels that you'd Hyatt, Marriott, Hilton, like you're going to see hotels. If you're okay with staying 50 minutes away. If you're trying to walk in town, I don't know what your options are. I think that it's such a small town like Kent used to be that lodging fills up really quick if you're trying to walk everywhere. But there is plenty of parking in the town. If you want to drive 50 minutes away, there's New Haven. If you go up the road, there's Madison. There's deep. I mean, it's on the coast, so you have the whole perimeter on both sides and above and all around. There's plenty of lodging. You might just have to drive 15, 20 minutes to get to it. But yeah, that's what I would say is book it as soon as you can so you can get the place you want, so you can be where you want to be at, so you can start making plans. Once the schedule comes out, people love to plan their trip and say, oh, I'm going to do this. Let's book a dinner reservation here. Let's try to do breakfast that morning and meet up with so-and-so for coffee. So I would just say as soon as you can. Everyone has a different schedule. Everyone has a different timeline for when they can book their ticket. I always just say book it as soon as you can because then you have better options.
Yeah, we booked ours in February.
Yeah, same. I think I always book lodging for us and the number of casts we expect before I announce it, so that I make sure we have a place to stay. But yeah, that was I think December whenever we did that. So we've been settled for a while, but we still sell tickets every day, and I know people are still making plans. So I wouldn't say you're too late. I would just say get it as soon as you can.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other tips that you would recommend about the fall? Because we do also have another event that I know is in the works for you that we also want to make sure that we can talk about on this episode.
Tips for fall. I'm trying to think. What are my tips for fall? My tips for fall are plan your route. I think getting to FanFest is part of the fun. Whether that is a drive from New York City because you want to see that area, whether it's coming from Providence or Hartford, whether it's driving from home. Some people drive really far distances. I mean, the first 7 years of the festival, Marcus and I drove from Austin, Texas to the festival in a big truck and brought everything. In the last 2 years when the event was smaller, we shipped everything and took an airplane. And I would say that the drive was almost preferable in ways. It took longer. It was hard to get away from our kids, but that journey of getting to FanFest is really fun. And so try to enjoy that part too. I would say that's part of it. We're not in a big city. And so getting to Guilford is a journey. It's a car ride, it's a bus ride, it's a plane, it's whatever it is. But I would say my tip for that is book your trip so you can figure out how you're going to get there and enjoy that part of it too. And the anticipation, that's part of the fun.
Yeah, we like a good road trip. Last year we drove from Buffalo, and
it's not bad. It's not bad from Buffalo now either, right? But 5 hours.
It's even better. I think it's 6 without stops, something like that. Whereas Maine was 8 or something plus stops. Yeah. And our original route had us going through Massachusetts and looping around Boston. And we were like, you know what? By the time we get to Boston, it's going to be rush hour. So let's call an audible and go through Vermont instead and New Hampshire. And so it was really pretty. I mean, it wasn't fully fall color yet, but it was so much more relaxing. Yeah. And it was just
different because we're about a month later than we were last year. I think you're going to see peak fall. I guess it always could be past the prime or the peak, but I think having the event back in October, the first year of the festival was the same weekend. It was that third weekend of October. And it was gorgeous. And then we kind of slowly creeped up through September, which had its perks. It's not as cold. It's a really beautiful time to be up there, but you might not see the leaves. I think being back in October, I think we're going to try to stun everyone with the beauty.
Yeah, I think it'll be gorgeous. But yeah, I totally agree with it. Take your time, enjoy the ride. All that matters is that we're going.
Yes.
And just embrace the detours, if you will, because it was 2 states we had never been to, and so we're like, it could take us a little longer, but it'll be so much more relaxing and so much nicer. And we were totally right about that. So go with the flow, but yes, plan it in advance and contemplate the to and fro and build that into part of your trip instead of being like, how can I get there the fastest? Because the journey is just as fun
too. Because I mean, having not lived in New England, I think that's part of the fun for me to get to Connecticut is seeing how beautiful it is, driving through it, feeling like you're a New Englander. Stop at there's a ton of farms nearby, like a cider mill or apple cider donuts. Stop and pick a pumpkin, stop and get an apple. Do those quintessential fall things. It'll make the experience just even that much brighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just echo it. Just embrace the spontaneity. I think that's a good way to cap it.
Totally.
Yeah. It's exactly what Lorelai would do.
So. Yeah, right. They would get to the Cheshire Cat down a crazy road and take a trip on the whim. And I think that that's what FanFest is just an experience, and it's an adventure. And I think that, that's something people even take away from it every year is they've tried something new. They've met a new person. They've experienced something they never thought they'd experience. Why in the world would anyone not from Connecticut stop in Guilford for a weekend? I mean, you know what I mean? Like it was never on my bingo card. I never thought I'd be in like 10 states or 10 cities in Connecticut, or that I would know the topography of Connecticut. I would never thought I'd know what towns and counties, and these are all new things because of FanFest. And I think that's kind of part of it too.
Yeah.
Other than that, while we are all super hyped up and ready for it to be fall and for it to be the weekend of October 18th through 20th, it is not the only Gilmore Girls weekend or trip that you are currently planning for all of us. There's something else that's going to be happening in the middle of winter. I hear whispers of something in Florida. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So FanFest, as it normally is, our annual gathering on the East Coast, as you know, is in Guilford, Connecticut, October 18th through 20th. And then we had thought for years, in fact, I don't even know if he would remember it. Mike Gandolfi had said at the first FanFest, he had looked at me and he was like, man, people are coming from all over. They'd probably go anywhere. We kind of made this joke of like, I can't believe they all showed up for this. And he said, it'd be really fun as all these people on a cruise. And I said, I actually think the same thing. And so ever since the first FanFest, Marcus and I have just tossed around the idea of like, wouldn't it be fun to take a FanFest cruise at some point? And then I've seen other groups do it, and I thought, you know what, we should just try. And so we were going to wait to do it in the fall sometime. And I thought, I don't know, everyone really loves being together in Connecticut in the fall. I think that is like just a very stronghold of what FanFest has kind of been to people for the last decade. That I thought, well, summers are really hard. Everyone has family stuff. Spring is super busy, especially if you have kids in sports or, or work, whatever it is. Something about like the dead of winter screams to me like, let's have a good time. And so we just kind of poked our head around the beginning of this year and came up with a trial of a FanFest cruise. And so we are cruising on Celebrity Cruises. It's a Silhouette ship, January 24th through 27th out of Fort Lauderdale. We're stopping in Key West and we're stopping in the Bahamas. We have cast members coming. We have a great group of FanFest people. I think a lot of the cruise people are people that have been before, but then there's also a lot of new people that are like, this is my first FanFest because I live in Florida or Georgia or Tennessee and I can actually drive to it and it seems doable. I think the thrill of it for me is once you get there, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about your lodging. You don't have to worry about your food. You don't have to worry about your alcohol. You don't have to worry about driving anywhere. You don't have to do anything. We're just getting on a boat. We're being entertained. We have our own meetups and meet and greets and panels, and we have our own schedule. We also have the facilities on the ship. We have excursions. To me, it's like everything FanFest is, which is about people and community and relationships with some of our favorite cast members. And so we are very excited about it. We're trying to see if it'll work. If it's a mode of FanFest that could be something we could do annually, we'll do it. If it seems like, oh man, January is a hard time, maybe we got to try February or March. We'll try anything. We're always, if anyone knows FanFest, it's kind of like the sky's the limit. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? And who's going to show up? I say it all the time. We'll keep doing it as long as people come. So the cruise is new for all of us. I'm excited about it. I've never been to any of these places, Fort Lauderdale, Key West, Bahamas. So I think it'll be an adventure. It'll be something totally new and different and unique. And it'll be like our own FanFest spring break episode, I think.
Spring break episode.
Yeah.
That's a whole vibe. That's amazing.
Girls in bikinis.
Yeah. Boys in the twist. I think it'll be great. I'm really excited about it. I think that'll be a fun way for us just to get together and have some good laughs, have some good memories, see some good weather, eat some good food, hang out, have fun, and be a true reunion. It'll be more than, just iconic Connecticut. It'll be something that's just almost like a vacation for all of us.
Yeah, don't forget to pack your Power of Myth, everybody.
That's right. That's right. I think it's gonna be fun, and I think a lot of FanFest people, which surprises me. I think nothing should surprise me anymore, but it surprises me. They've had several people say it's their first cruise. I've had a few people say this will be my first airplane ride. I've had people say, I never thought I'd go on a cruise. It's never been on my list, but I can't miss this opportunity. And you're like, okay, what a great attitude. So we're going to make the most of it. And I think that, I think it's going to be a really great time. So I hope more people come to both. I would love to see, both events sell out, and then we can grow the way that, makes sense.
Yeah, we're still not sure if we can do the cruise, but if we did, it would be my first cruise. Would.
You can do it. I know you can. Yeah, it's fun. And I've only been on a few, but I think what's really easy about them is you just don't have to think too much. When you get there, you just get to relax and enjoy. And, I think when you go on vacation, you're still worried about like, oh gosh, we got to get to this restaurant. We got to eat by this time. What's our schedule? How do we do this? Like, the cruises make it so easy to just show up and then leave. You don't have to clean a table. You don't have to do all these things. And so the way my event planner mind works is like, this will be relaxing for everyone, cast included, everyone.
Yeah, agreed. If anyone is interested in wanting more information on either one of these events, I mean, obviously we hope that we've provided some of that here, but do you have a website, or are there other avenues where they can get more info if they're looking for it?
You can always go to thefanfestsociety.com online. We hope that it has all the information that you need. If it doesn't, you can email us at hello@thefanfestsociety.com. It's just me. My husband also does a bit of fan stuff throughout the year, and he's way more hands-on at the festival. So just be a little bit patient. If I don't get back to you, I promise it's in my inbox. If you don't hear from us within 24 hours, you can follow back up. You can find us on social media. We are pretty active on Instagram and Facebook and X and LinkedIn. I don't do TikTok. I wish I did. If someone wants to do TikTok for us, tell me, because we could use the help. But mostly online. You can email us online or find us on our social media. So
yeah, and we'll be sure to link all of that as well so that you don't have to memorize it. But
great,
good to know. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with?
Let me think. I don't know. You guys are so good at asking all the questions. I'm like, I don't know. Is there anything else that I forgot that you're like, gosh, you really should tell people this? No, I mean, we're always excited to see everyone. We're excited to see the cast. We're excited equally to see the attendees. We're excited to see the town. I think that it's really special the longer it goes on to see the staying power of the community and the fandom. And so in a lot of ways, we're gearing up for this to be our best event yet. And we hope that everyone will be there. We hope that we're still doing this for a long time. And so I hope to see you guys many, many years from now talking about your first FanFest. But I am excited to see how you feel after your second. I want to hear all the details and understand, like, how is it different, in what ways, what emotions were different. I know it sounds goofy, but I like to give people space to say, hey, take a journal, like think it through, like pick out your favorite things, tell me everything. I want to hear all of it because I don't experience FanFest the way other people do. But in my own unique way, it's my favorite weekend of the year. So there's that.
And if you're watching, last year we had a whole episode with Jenny as well, and we had Jess and her husband Charlie on, so we got some perspectives from other people, and we also did a wrap up of our first time at FanFest. And so if you want more information or more stories, you can always check out those videos as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the biggest thing I will say too is don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're unsure about something, Jenny can always happily answer anything. Send us an email. We'll always, fill you in on anything with the FanFest that we can. There's an entire Facebook page dedicated to just like a planning group for this event, where if you need a roomie, you can try and find one. If you need a ride from an airport or a bus terminal or a train station, there's someone there who's willing to help you out. So go explore all of those options. Again, we will include links to all of those, websites, planning groups in this video description below. But you have resources available to you if you need more information, and definitely make use of them. Ask all of the questions that you need to. We would just love to see as many people attending this event as possible because we can't hype it up enough.
Yay! Thank you guys, and I love your shirts. I see the top of them. Yes.
And the mugs.
And the mugs, they're so cute. It actually reminded me, I was like, we need to order mugs soon. I'm going to write it down and be like, we need to order mugs for this year. I haven't made it that far yet.
These are like some of my favorite mugs. I have the I Smell Snow and the Anomnia apparatus from like the Kindred Handicrafts as well. And I just use them all the time.
Oh, I love them. I love it. I love that.
They hold up so well.
Coffee. So anyways, I'm actually, you want to hear something fun? I'm actually meeting up with a FanFest person as soon as we get off here to go for a hike and to go to the beach today. And so we also do the same thing you guys do, which is we meet up with FanFest friends whenever we're able to, and we try throughout the year. I think that's one of the more unique things to this event is never in my life have I met people from all over the world that I meet up with year after year. I think it's the most unique thing I've ever probably been a part of. And so, yes, not only do I get to see you guys right now, we're about to head out and go see some other friends too. So
yeah, it's kind of amazing how people stay in touch and keep this community going year round.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on and doing this episode with us. It's so nice to see you, even on camera, knowing that we'll be able to see you in a couple of months in person. So just thank you for taking the time to be here with us, talk more about this event. We hope for anyone watching that it's been, an encouragement and a motivation for you to consider coming and buying a ticket. You won't be disappointed. This is a weekend that I know we're both looking forward to since it ended last year. You'll have the best time of your life. So we hope that, again, just do yourself a favor and buy a ticket. It's going to be joyous in ways that you can't even imagine until you experience it.
That's an excellent recommendation. Thanks.
And an excellent way to wrap up, I think.
Yeah. But other than that, just again, Jenny, thank you for being here. If you want additional information about this event, we have included a bunch of links in our video description below. Go check those out. Email either Jenny or us if you have any additional questions about the weekend. But again, other than that, Jenny, thank you so much for being here for us.
You bet. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes.
Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Yeah. As of recording this, we're just shy of 17 weeks out, I think. So closer to 16.
Yep.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. We're close. Less than 4 months, right? That's how I look. I always think of months. The weeks freak me out when I think of like how close it's getting. I'm like, oh gosh, I have to do all these things. But months, I'm like, months is quite a while. It's a third of the year, a fourth of the year.
Yep.
So it'll be here soon.
We're counting down the days.
Yay. Yep. Thanks.
But again, thanks for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, we will see you next Friday night for dinner.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.